هبت رياح العاصفة على الأيادي الخاطفة واقتلعت جذورها مع السيول الجارفة واقتلعت جذورها مع السيول الجارفة اليوم ويل من بغى.
Abdul Rahim Green is in charge of schools tours at Regent's Park Mosque. As a young man, he rejected the Christian Jesus for the Jesus of Islam.
I've always, had this, and still do have this great love and affection for Jesus. There's nothing that affects me quite as much as when I hear the Quran being recited.
He's also a popular speaker at Islamic events and has been booked to tell the Muslim version of the second coming of Jesus.
This is the time when Jesus, the son of Mary, Isa ibn Maryam, he will descend. Now Isa...
Carmen Schultz and Valerie Streit are two Christians who've come to find out more about the second coming of Jesus in Islam.
In my faith as a Christian, obviously Jesus comes back, and I would like to see what are the similarities, what are the differences in the understanding.
Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord.
In contrast to the Bible, in Islamic tradition, the second coming of Jesus is narrated in vivid detail.
Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah.
The basic scenario that's given is the world becomes filled with an immense amount of oppression and injustice, and Christ returns in an eastern part of Damascus.
His hands will be resting on the shoulders of two angels. And his hair will be as if it is dripping with oil. And when he shakes his head, the beads will be like, the beads of the oil will be like pearls.
Some of the details were different too, with the whole idea of the oil, and I thought it was interesting. I mean, I'd never heard of that before.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
So he will actually pray behind the Muslim Imam, who is regarded as being the Caliph at the time, and then he will take part with that leader in the battles against the Antichrist.
He will destroy the cross and kill the pig.
By him coming back, destroying the crosses, and saying, no one can receive worship but Allah, that's really making a point that, all the things that Christians have said about Jesus in the past, they're wrong. And so it kind of felt like very strong.
The moment Ad-Dajjal sees Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus the son of Mary, he will begin to dissolve like salt dissolves in water.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
The Christians who claim to be following Jesus will have to accept Islam at this point, the ones who are alive at that time, because he will say to them, if you want to follow me, you have to follow Muhammad.
As a Christian, I don't believe that Jesus is going to declare himself to be a Muslim. And I mean, that's going to be a bone of contention, I think, between Muslims and Christians.
Not all Muslims and Christians see themselves in disagreement. Adam Williamson and Jamie Clark are good friends. Adam is a Muslim and Jamie is a Christian. Despite having different views on Jesus, they often find common ground.
I could get into a lot of trouble for saying this, but I do think that there's a lot of truth, about Jesus in the Quran. I'm not looking for where they contradict each other, I'm looking for where they don't contradict each other, because that's where the truth is, I feel. But that doesn't mean, for me, that I have to be a Muslim. The Christian truth is still very deep in my heart.
One of the things that I love about Islam, I really love this, is that God has set up all of these meta-narratives. Like the Christians have their version of reality, the Jews have their version of reality, the Buddhists have their version of reality, the Muslims have their version of reality, the secularists, atheists have their version of reality. And all of these are talked about in the Quran, all these different realities. And then the Quran says, you better think about these. Think deeply about these. Don't just assume that these are correct. You have to think, you have to use your brain.
I invite you to accept Islam because the difference between me and you, I do the prayer that the Prophet Muhammad did, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I recite the same as he recited. I have the same movements, I have the same prayers. But the Christians do not have the prayer that Jesus had.
The Prophet Muhammad's most important concern in engaging people that were hostile to him was how I can turn this enemy into a friend. And that only comes from love. That comes from a concern. And I think the centrality of love in the Christian tradition is a very beautiful quality. And it's something that many Muslims have forgotten about their own faith. And I think there's an immense amount that Muslims can learn from Jesus. I also think there's an immense amount that Christians can learn from Muhammad.
أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد وانتشت روحي وصار الدمع يجري يا إلهي خذ بقلبي للرحمن